All right. The Gladstone City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. Recognized representatives of the news media and council authorized staff members may attend the executive session. All other persons must leave the room and are respectfully requested to do so now. Members of the media are specifically directed not to report on the topics discussed and the deliberations that occurred during the executive session. City councilors are similarly reminded not to discuss executive session topics and deliberations with any third party. This includes, without limitation, family members, other appointed officials, for example, planning commission members, library advisory board members, etc., city staff and volunteers, members of the public, and members of the media. The presence of the media while the city's legal counsel is discussing matters with the council is not intended to, nor does it waive the attorney-client privilege that attaches to those communications and any related documentation. If a final decision on any matter is necessary, the council will make that decision when it is in a regular session. Thank you very much. I call to order the Gladstone City Council meeting for June 8th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Good evening, everybody. Per the Governor's Executive Order 20-16 regarding compliance with Oregon's public meeting laws, the City of Gladstone is abiding by social distancing requirements during the coronavirus pandemic. The City Council meeting will be conducted virtually using the Zoom platform. The Zoom access instructions can be found on the meeting agenda. Members of the City Council, staff, and the public all have access to this call. Public comment requests were accepted prior to noon today and were to include your topic and phone number. The city updated its Zoom software so it allows us to easily conduct events with a simpler interface in a professional setting. There are two groups of participants. Those are panelists and attendees. Panelists are those you will see on the platform, such as elected officials, the city administrator, city attorney, and any staff or person making a presentation. Attendees are those in the audience. Attendees will still be able to speak for 3 minutes during business from the audience or during agenda items if they submitted their request to speak before noon today. Additionally, if anyone becomes disruptive, we will mute and remove them from the video conference. If that fails to stop the disruption, we will recess the meeting and return within 5 minutes. If we are unable to continue, council will briefly meet off air to move unfinished business to the next council agenda. We will start tonight's meeting with a presentation from Police Chief John Schmerber. Tonight's consent agenda includes approval of the May 11th City Council and May 19th, 2021 special meeting minutes, approval of the April bank balances, budget report for periods ending April 30th, 2021, approval of the April check register, legal costs on projects, department head monthly reports for May 2021, approval of the slurry seal contract, and approval of an OLCC application due to a change of ownership of the Marsala box. Our regular meeting agenda includes renovation of the Max Patterson tennis pickleball courts, Gladstone tourism brand and strategy wayfinding guidelines, Resolution 1193, making an increase in the 2019-2021 biennial budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year due to the senior center roof room repairs, the coronavirus relief funding, and the Meldrum Bar Park funding for the boat dock area. Resolution 1194 to recognize Juneteenth as an annual official holiday within the city of Gladstone, and discussion regarding the municipal court judge position. Tammy, could you please call the roll?
Councilor Ripley.
Yes.
Councilor Alexander.
Yes.
Councilor Tracy.
Present.
Councilor Hartman.
Aye.
Councilor Todd.
Here.
Councilor Garlington.
Here.
Mayor Stemple.
Here, thank you, and let's do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nobody has heads. So, just right here. All right. So we're going to start today with a presentation from Police Chief John Schmerber in regards to the Gladstone Police Department accreditation. Chief, take it away.
Hi, thank you, Mayor, councilors. Thank you for this opportunity. I want to introduce you to a person, Scott Hayes, who's the Executive Director of the Oregon Accreditation Alliance. We actually achieved one of our stated goals for over the next couple of years early, and this is a tremendous honor. So, Scott Hayes, please take it away. Scott, you're muted.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now I can't see myself, so can you see me?
No, we cannot.
Okay. Okay, so no problems there. Okay, hey, good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, and members of the community. As the Chief explained, I am Scott Hayes, the Executive Director of the Oregon Accreditation Association. I appreciate the opportunity to address the council and tonight to present the Gladstone Police Department with their first award of accreditation. This is really a monumental step for any agency to be evaluated by an outside independent organization, to have all of their policies, their procedures, and practices scrutinized by someone, and then to come back in and to offer up suggestions, obviously to make possible improvements and to ensure best practice is carried out through that organization. As you know, law enforcement is experiencing a very changing society with increased demands for police accountability and transparency. As in the past, our profession must and has faced these challenges and work with our communities to address these concerns. Accreditation is one step towards building community trust and legitimacy of our profession. Accreditation goals are really pretty straightforward. They're to support continued improvement of law enforcement services, to establish best practice through professional standards, to establish agency accountability, transparency, and to enhance the management of police operations. To be able to do this, OAA, or Oregon Association Accreditation, has 106 standards, and basically the agency virtually writes and ensures that they have 106 of these policies in place to address our standards. And these standards that we have are best practice. These are best practice not only in Oregon, but the United States, and Oregon revised statutes, Oregon and legislative decisions that are being made. And we update these constantly and we add them. And for an example, we added 3 just last year based on legislation from our Oregon government. So the Oregon Accreditation Alliance was formed under the direction of the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police, the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, and the Association of Public Safety Communication Officials. There are 20 members to this board that evaluates every agency that comes across wanting to be accredited. This is done every 3 years. So in 3 more years from now, we will be doing a reassessment on the police department to ensure that they are continuing with the standards and best practice. We are currently providing accreditation services for 68 law enforcement and community communication centers in Oregon, 2 in Alaska, and possibly 4 in Alaska. And the reason why, if you're wondering why Alaska is, they don't have an accreditation process. And because of that, they've looked around at other states and they like what they saw with Oregon. So we are now providing that service to a number of Alaskan agencies, and that is expanding on a daily basis. So tonight, we'd like to recognize the Gladstone Police Department and their chief for their first award of accreditation. It also should be pointed out that the agents completed their initial assessment in only 9 months. This really shows a commitment to the community and to the agency to accomplish this in such a short period of time. This was done very quickly, and it was done to perfection. It was really well done. I know that there was a number of staff that were involved in the entire process, but I would also like to specifically recognize Executive Assistant Christy Walls as the agency's accreditation manager. We worked very closely together through the process, traded emails, we did training together. She did a great job, and really everyone did a phenomenal job to prepare for the review. So, Chief, on behalf of the Oregon Accreditation Association, I would, and obviously the Board of Directors, I would like you to present you with the first award of accreditation. And I'd like to be able to hold that in my hand and show it to you. I know you have one because I mailed it to you. Do you have that handy?
Yes, we do. It's actually hanging on the in front of the police department wall. So for all the public and communities.
I'm sorry I can't show that to you, but congratulations. Your department has done an outstanding job, and I know they will continue along those lines. Accreditation is right now a hot topic in our legislature. Right now, they are requiring agencies with 35 officers or more to become accredited in the state. And we kind of have the feeling that over the next couple of years, it will be required by all agencies. So what that does is it puts the Gladstone Police Department ahead of that curve. And so that's something that down the road, they're not going to have to worry about because they're already becoming accredited. So again, Chief, on behalf of us, great job for you and all of your agency. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? No, thank you very much. And congratulations, Chief. Awesome job.
Thank you. If you can indulge me a moment to read a statement, I think that I would appreciate it.
Yes, please.
As mentioned, law enforcement accreditation establishes a uniform set of best practices that are verified by the independent body for compliance. Being accredited demonstrates accountability to the Gladstone community and reinforces to all the members of the police department that the work being done is meaningful and appropriate. I want to congratulate our community, our council, and all the members of the Gladstone Police Department for this superb accomplishment. Your Gladstone Police Department has met or exceeded accreditation standards and will continue to meet or exceed these standards to maintain community accountability and expectations as we move forward. Finally, I want to take a moment to specifically thank two people for their role in obtaining this very important goal for the police department. Police Executive Assistant Christy Walls, her familiarity with accreditation, along with her exceptional work ethic and commitment to excellence, paved the path to our successful completion of this project. Also, Elias Zamora was instrumental in the successful completion of this project. If you don't know Elias is a resident of Gladstone and former Gladstone High School graduate. He's currently a senior at Portland State University, majoring in criminal justice. Elias completed his internship with the police department, focusing on accreditation. The young man has a bright future with whatever he does, whatever realm of the criminal justice system he decides to go into. So a special thank you goes out to Chris and Elias for their work, and congratulations to the entire council, mayor, and Gladstone community.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. So I have one quick question. So we had some type of accreditation under Jim Pride. Is it a different organization, or was it accreditation for something completely separate?
Well, the accreditation of previous to Chief Pride had expired for
Oh,
quite some
okay.
time.
Okay,
And it's a different accreditation, different standards, a whole different program brought forward. And we are extremely pleased with the speed we're able to do this, with the precision and the ability. I mean, we only really corrected 13 standards, and there were very, very minor corrections, but we made them.
awesome.
Not 13, I'm sorry, three standards. So.
Well, it's because of your leadership, so thank you very much for finding Gladstone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Council. Madam Mayor and
Yes.
Council, thank you also. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, and have a great day,
All right,
or
thank you.
evening, actually, it's evening.
Okay.
All right, next, any agenda additions or corrections?
Thank you, Mayor. I have two. One is that we received written comments related to an agenda item this week that the City Council received. We wanted to enter it into the record, and it's from Kyle Donovan in support of the Juneteenth resolution. We will add that to the website after the meeting. The second change is under consent agenda number 8, approval of the OLCC application. We misspelled masala box, and I just wanted to make sure for the record, it is MASALABOX. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So next item is the consent agenda. Do we have any questions or concerns? Counselor Alexander.
Yeah, when I was going through the packet, I noticed right here in Exhibit A, it shows all the streets and who's going to get the slurry. And I just want to know how they make those determinations, because not just because I live on Hereford, but if you go down to Hereford Street by Derrick's Field, it's one of the worst streets I've seen in the whole city. I mean, and I don't see it on the list to even get taken care of. So I just wonder, how do they come up with, right here, Abernathy, Arlington, Clackamas, Cornell, how do they come up with those? Do they go and look for the worst? Do they just pick random? Do they just do so many and do so many next time? How's that work? That was my question.
City Administrator Betts, I'm sure you have the answer for that.
I have a simplified answer. We have a pavement management plan that the city did several years ago, and our Public Works Director will take the streets prioritized out of the pavement management for that. We didn't have a slurry seal last year because of COVID, so we're very excited to get this program back in place, because we do recognize that there are a lot of streets that need help, but basically it is based off a city's pavement management plan that we have.
Counselor Ripley.
One of the other things with the end of Hereford down here is that they can't slurry seal over because the road's so bad. So it can't be slurry sealed unless they rip it all up, the layers that are failing all at the same time. So it kind of eliminates us from slurry sealing by the park.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Counselor Alexander.
Well, that just brings me to one more. So is that going to be the program every year? Slurry seal, fix, or are we ever going to put in put in whole new roads or repave them, or is that just something that costs too much?
No, there will be other roads that we actually do full construction on, but that would be a conversation that you would want to have with the acting Public Works Director moving forward when we are going to be doing those.
Okay, thank you.
They're very expensive. I think Clarendon was how many blocks? And Counselor Tracy probably knows that very, very well. Was a couple $1 million, wasn't it? For just like 2 blocks or 3 blocks. It's super expensive. All right, anything else? Would someone make a motion then to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So a
I'll
second?
second.
Motion was made by Counselor Todd and seconded by Counselor Garlington to approve the consent agenda. Somebody's not on mute. Do we have any further discussion? Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley.
Yes.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Tracy,
Yes.
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, consent agenda has passed. Any correspondence other than the ones that you mentioned?
I have nothing further.
All right, a couple of things before we start with the regular agenda. First, for those folks that would like to speak, the deadline to accept comments was noon today. And as a reminder, we allow 3 minutes to speak. Second, as I do before every meeting, I would like to say a few words regarding the City Council. The most important limitation we have sitting here is that we are representing the citizens of Gladstone, not our own personal agendas and beliefs. There have been many times when a decision being made doesn't align with what we would like personally, but have made a decision based on what is best for the city as a whole. That doesn't mean our personal beliefs have changed, just that the city's needs were more important. As we discuss and consider matters, there are laws and rules we have to use as the basis of our decisions. These start at the federal and state level, then filter down to our city's comprehensive plan, city charter, codes, and ordinances. We do not have the luxury of randomly making decisions, but instead have to be consistent and take a path that is defensible. We appreciate you taking the time to call in and participate in this process. We have your phones muted, but if for some reason that doesn't work, please do so on your end. My goal is to keep this meeting respectful and engaging, and I hope all of you can help us do that. First item is number 9, renovation of the Max Patterson tennis/pickleball courts. Staff.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As you recall at your meeting in April, you gave the Gladstone Pickleball Club permission to move forward with renovation of 8 pickleball courts, 1 tennis court, and to try and determine whether it was cost effective to replace the fence or perhaps have it enhanced. Since that time, the Pickleball Club has raised about $75,000 through donations and fundraising to do this project. They also received notification that they did not receive the Travel Oregon Tourism Grant. So they have raised about $75,000, which will cover the cost for the 8 pickleball courts and 1 tennis court. However, it will not address the fence. In order to provide the fence and the 2 permanent pickleball packages, it comes to an additional $45,000. So I met with members of the Pickleball Club and requested that this come back to the City Council for a discussion, and the City Council could determine if you would like to approve a modification to the agreement. I think we should pull in Suzanne, Bill, and Donna to talk to the City Council about their modification, and also want to make sure the council's aware in your packet, you do have information from the Pickleball Club, and you also have bids that they've received and a copy of the 2.5-page agreement that the city attorney prepared for both entities to enter into. So I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Susanna, Bill, and Donna, and who would like to speak first.
Perfect.
Donna, Bill, and Suzanne, you should be able to unmute yourselves.
Are we just going to have them on audio and not video? There we go.
And
Okay.
Then
Am I, just a second here. Am I on audio?
kind of.
Okay, just a second.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Now we can't hear you at all.
Okay, I should be okay now?
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mayor Stemple and council members for giving me a chance to talk tonight. I am Suzanne Yost, and I am the treasurer for Gladstone Pickleball Club. And I have a few remarks tonight about the club, and also I want to address a few misconceptions about the meeting from April 13. Okay, first of all, Gladstone Pickleball Club members play or organized pickleball on Monday through Saturday from 9:00 a.m. until 12:00 noon. Also, Wednesday evenings, we have ladies' night. It's very, very popular. We sometimes get up to 60 people coming to the ladies' night. You will see players playing at other times because it is a very popular sport. It is the fastest growing sport in the United States. And players, because they want to play all the time, do set up private games after those organized times. With those off hours, we are a first come, first served basis with the tennis players, which means that when tennis players come, we definitely share the courts with the tennis players. I've been there on a couple afternoons when a couple of girls came and they wanted to hit tennis balls around. And so we were on one of the places where they couldn't do so. We simply picked up our net, moved to a different court so that they could hit balls. I can't say that that happens frequently, but it has happened. We also share our courts with non-members. One Sunday afternoon, a family came and we handed out club paddles, balls, and a couple of our members even gave instruction to this family for a half hour or so. So we do share our courts. A little bit of information about our club. We have 296 members as of today. And only about 15% of those come from Gladstone. The remainder come from other cities around Milwaukee and Lake Grove, Clackamas, Happy Valley, Portland, Oregon City, Beaver Creek, Redland, Westland, Lake Oswego, and Sandy. And that's among others. We draw from a lot of communities. Our members then support the local businesses in Gladstone. Pre-COVID, we had our Christmas party at Happy Rocks. After events, we've gone to Happy's, where we've taken in almost 20 people on an evening. A couple of members needed a new furnace, and they went to Watts Heating and Cooling because they saw the banner at the courts. And Watts Heating and Cooling is one of our sponsors. So they bought their furnace from them. My husband and I, we eat at Happy Roads almost once a week, either lunch or coffee. Okay, Crossroads. I don't know what Thomas Yellow Eyes, our club instructor, loves Happy Rock coffee. And after some friendly competition, we hand out gift certificates to different restaurants, Hawaiian Ice and Bound to Happen. Now, we anticipate supporting more businesses in Gladstone if we can keep our courts, if we can keep the people coming to those courts. The court renovation will help. And we are known as a warm, friendly, supportive club, and we want our members to come back. So thank you very much. And I think Bill Preble is going to talk next. And I believe he's going to use this computer because we've all gathered together this evening, all the board members.
Perfect, thank you.
Good evening. I'm not going to take much of your time because Suzanne pretty much said everything I needed to say. I just wanted the council members to understand that when questions arise, when you're talking about this, that we're here to answer anything you have. I'm not going to go over what she just talked about. But we are here if you have questions. There were some misconceptions in the last meeting. It seemed to be that you didn't know about, and we'd be glad to clear up anything that you guys have. So that's basically all I have to say, that we're here while you do your discussion. If Donna, do you need to say anything?
I just,
And Donna's here also. She's the one that actually put the numbers together. So if you have any questions about that, we're here to answer. Other than that, that's about it for us.
Okay. Hi, I'm Donna, and I just want to say thank you, or the club wants to say thank you to the counselors and Mayor Stempel for all of your consideration of our project. We also want to make sure we thank Jackie Betts. Her help has been invaluable as we've kind of worked through this process for the last several months. So we just wanted to make sure to thank Jackie. All right, I think that's it.
well, I have a question for you. The biggest misconception that I hear is that it's only for old people. So what's the age difference? What's the age range for people that play?
Well, I know Suzanne's granddaughter
I was
plays.
gonna say, yeah, my granddaughter, who is 12 years old, it comes regularly on Wednesday evening to ladies' night.
We have
Okay.
212 that play.
And my son, who is almost 40, plays. I can beat him, but he plays.
And we have an 88-year-old.
Our oldest right now is 88.
And they come from San
And they drive all the way from Sandy to come and play at Gladstone.
And he's good.
Do you have a lot
And
of
he's good.
families? You have a lot of families that come and play also?
We do have a lot of families. We've got a family that husband, wife, their daughter, son-in-law, and their grandson has played. That was just last Saturday. They were all there playing. So we get a lot of people, wide range, and it's really it's neat to see people playing. Just for an example, I'm playing in a tournament in a week with another club member, and we're in our 60s. She is playing on the mixed doubles and with another club member who's a 21-year-old. So she in her 60s is going to be paired with the 21-year-old in mixed doubles at the tournament coming up in Newburgh. So
Okay, and another little aside, okay. We aren't all in tournaments, but 16-year-old members and under don't pay anything. We let them play for free. So
Nice.
that we are encouraging them to join.
Wonderful. All right, does anybody have any questions for these folks? All right, could you guys stay on just in case questions come up?
absolutely.
All right.
Should we mute?
Probably that would be a good idea for right now. Thank you, I appreciate that. Counselors, we do have one more person that would like to speak, but I want to go through council first. Questions or concerns? Counselor Alexander.
No, I just know that I've got pictures of the people from Happy, Shaved Ice, in line at Happy Rock. I mean, so they do our community a great service with the people that come and visit it. And the people are very nice too. The people I've been down there and talked to. And I just believe this is a no-brainer that we need to get them the fence.
All right.
That's what I have.
Give them the fence as in don't make them have to fix it. That's what you're talking about.
No, we pay for it. We pay to get the fence up around. They do the
Oh,
courts.
you want
We
us to pay for the fence?
Yes, of course.
Okay, okay, Counselor Hartman.
We've got money.
Counselor Hartman.
Thank you, Mayor. First I want to say that I appreciate all that you guys have done. I love any organization that cares for its community in the way that you all seem to. So my comments are nothing personal. I would say this if I was to any type of sport. My concern is that if we pay for the fencing, once they complete their portion, my understanding is we can't work in tandem, at the same time. So I guess my question is, am I to assume that once they're done with their project, that then we're going to have to go in, pay for this fence, jackhammer up kind of an outside portion of what they're going to do, and then put in a fence? Maybe I just don't know how the fence is going to go in, but it is cement. And so my assumption is that we're going to have to do some removal of the resurfacing, and then who pays for that after the fact? Then my concern also on their contract, it doesn't mention anything about, painting the tennis lines back on, which the tennis lines are not there right now. And so it just, clarification on that. And also the addition of the city will not charge Gladstone Pickleball Club any user fees for a minimum of 10 years. Personally, I think that we just need to put this on hold until the city can do the project and in full. Like, we're in control of the project, we're going to do it right, we're going to put it in our work plan, and then our public works has control over all the decisions, because this is a public property and this does belong to the Gladstone taxpayers. And so that's my concern, is that we're allowing a private nonprofit organization, and they're doing great things, to make decisions about a public property. And so, and then to have no agreements to not charge user fees for 10 years just seems a little outrageous to me, especially as we just put into play user fee charges for our associations for soccer, baseball, and softball. So I'm just a little concerned with the optics of this situation. I think it's I think that the city should handle the project, and that we should have control to make sure that it's done correctly and it's done right. So thank you.
All right, Councillor Todd.
I just have more of a question. So there's about 296 members. 15% of that would be 44 people that are taxpayers in Gladstone. I think it's great. I love having people come to our town. Just wondering, you do charge, you do a yearly fee? Is that how members get in there? How much is that?
You're muted.
Okay,
Yeah.
20, can you hear now?
Yeah, thanks.
$20 a year, but we are thinking about going up $5 to $10, either 25 or 30 a year.
How many years have you guys been a club? I can't remember.
This is our third year.
Okay.
We start in July. We will be starting our third year.
Oh, third year. Yeah, I definitely remember.
And we
that.
started out the first year, there were about 60 members.
Okay. Yeah.
And up to 300. And again, it's because of the reputation that we have throughout the pickleball community in the different cities.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I was in Central Oregon, and they just put in a couple different pickleball courts in Terrebonne. I know that. And I know it's fast moving. I do have some concerns though. And they're along the same with Councillor Hartman, mostly because I've been hearing from people. And there's I think we should pull out the portion that says that waiving the fee, whatever, because we need to not jump into things. A lot of times we jump into things and then we have to go back and look at it. And so I'm concerned about that. I just got to listen a little bit more, is what I'd like to do right now.
We are fine with that. If you want to take that out of the agreement that the city attorney has worked out, we're okay with that.
Yeah.
With the user fees, I should say.
The user fees. And as far as I was reading on like social media, some stuff that was, saying that we gave a sweet deal to you for this, that we're not going to sell the park. That was what was decided in April, correct? It was in April. It was that this, as much as we could guarantee, because we can't guarantee what any future city councils do, we're not going to sell the park, because that would actually be something that the citizens would have to vote on. And so, okay, just want to make sure that that was all sort of said for anybody who's listening as well.
Yeah.
I'm okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ripley.
One of my thoughts on this is that I think as a councilor, we're mixing up wants and needs. People might want a new pickleball court, but we need our infrastructure taken care of on our roads. But at the same time, we already have a budget for doing this kind of stuff. And I believe there should be enough in Park and Rec budget to cover a fifth. We need to do that. And that's what the budget's for. So if there's something working out where it came out of Park and Rec budget to help keep this moving and keep everybody happy and not taking stuff out of other stuff, then I think there's ways that we can work that out. That's all I got.
Thank you. Counselor Garlington.
Just a couple of things. When it comes to spending Parks and Rec money, I think it's really important that we acknowledge what Parks and Rec has asked for, different projects that they've put forth. Otherwise, why have a Park and Rec advisory committee? When it comes to the fees, I understand that they're willing to pay fees, but I also kind of think in my mind, $70,000 divided by 10 years is $7,000 worth of fees a year. Not to mention a lot of hours, and that doesn't even include the original fix on it. I'm just talking about going forth. I think that we might want to find out from our Public Works Department, maybe that fence will last 10 years, a nice little paint job, and maybe it will last and we don't have to put up, it's a cyclone fence. They last a long time. I'm with Counselor Hartman in the making sure that we get all the lines painted and, that's all completely done at the same time. That doesn't get left out, because there are kids who continue to want to play tennis, outside and things like that. I love seeing the people in our parks. You all know how I feel about parks. If you're going to use them, I'm just all about welcoming people. I see kids sitting in the evening up on the banks there watching everybody play. I see kids playing. Getting kids moving right now is something that we see on television all the time. It's super important that our children are out getting fresh air and moving and all of that. And if a part of every one of our parks can invite those children in wanting to learn to play another sport and wanting to get up and move every day and be healthier, I'm all for it. I'm right there. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Tracy.
So a couple things strike me as I'm looking at this. And one of the things is the end of Exhibit A that sounds like we have, there's an expiration date apparently on the funded monies that have been given in grants, or not grants, but donations. Is that correct? So what I'm reading here is that if we don't make a decision tonight that's favorable to the expenditure of an additional $45,000 from the city, that will basically stop this project from going forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, it is, Bill.
No, excuse me, that's not.
Okay, because that's the kind of
pickleball-
clarity clarity we need, because that's what's written in Exhibit A.
No,
So
the
I just need to
pickleball-
clarify.
The pickleball club doesn't care about the fence. Okay, it's the city that wants a new fence. Now, if you guys, if the council votes that they have to have the fence in there, that's not up to us. All we want is the courts resurface. That's all we're asking
But I
for.
think that's not.
But he's asking, he just said the fence. You said if the fence is not included, we don't care about the fence. We are just asking so we can spend the money to resurface the courts.
We do.
Now, you're discussing the fence amongst yourself as far as the city. That's not something that we have in our proposal. So I think am I answering you correctly? Am I giving you the right answer? What you?
Mr. Preble, you absolutely are. It's just, it's not what's characterized in the exhibit. So that I understand that, and thank you for the explanation, because that's what I was looking for, was clarification.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that's how it is presented in the exhibit.
I think I interpreted your question a little bit differently. We have a donor who has, this donor is going to give us about 1/3 of the money that we have, the 75. And process has been going on since, this has been going on for 6 months. And what that donor has told us is they need to move on. If this isn't going to get approved, they have other things that they have been, that other people who would like to have their money, basically. And so since we've been working on this for 6 months, they've kind of just said to us, you know, if we don't get the approval at this point, we're gonna pull our 25,000, which puts us then where we've got like 50 to 55 in there. And it's not, we can't do even the project that we have, you know, the resurfacing. So I think maybe that's the wording that's in there that you might be questioning. So our major donor wants an answer, yes or no, basically, because we've kind of initiated this way back in, I believe, December. And so that's kind of what that is coming from.
Thank you very much for that explanation, and I appreciate that. And I think although it doesn't align with the way that the exhibit is presented, nor with the options necessarily, that's fine. I guess I have to turn back to the city. Are we concerned about safety and security on the fence? That fence conversation went on ad nauseum at one point. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, are we as a city is concerned about safety and security, or is this really as the fence relates to the pickleball courts? And maybe the city administrator can remind me about that. You're right, it has gone on since probably December, and some of these details probably are missing in this current conversation. City administrator, can you help us with some of that?
Sure, thank you, Councilor Tracy. The fence, when the pickleball club went to get a bid, was told by the company that it's really not worth replacing. We believe that if you're going to do a project, you do it correctly and that you replace the fence. I think we all have come to the conclusion that we realized the pickleball club did not raise enough money to complete that. So one of the options before you tonight is to go ahead and let them do the renovation project on the 8 pickleball courts and the 1 tennis court. And then the city will pay for the fence to complete that project. So that is one of the options for you to consider. And we've even recommended, if you're going to do that, that it come out of the Parks Project Fund to complete it. You don't have to replace the fence, but it does need replaced. Again, it's from the 1970s, and we did have this conversation prior that it's just not going to complete the project in its entirety. I also want to clarify, because I asked Donna and Suzanne additionally about Councilor Hartman's question regarding the tennis lines, and the Biennial quote does include the tennis court, but it doesn't specifically call that out in the scope of work. And so I had that concern as well. And I'd like Suzanne and Donna to verify that their quote does include the tennis lines for that 1 court.
It definitely does include the tennis lines. That is the tennis net on the upper court is still fine. I mean, the posts and whatnot. So that will be kept in place. And the new lines are part of the finishing of the surface. And it includes the lines for that tennis court. Absolutely includes those on there. And then 8 pickleball. And there will be 4 pickleball courts whose lines will overlap somewhat with the 1 tennis court.
And that's fairly typical in many places.
Multi-use. Yeah.
Multi-use, right?
It's exactly what Hillendale Park in Oregon City has.
It's what Westland is going to for 4 of their courts.
So it is definitely there. It's included.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Nope, we do have, I believe, one more. Oh, Councilor Tracy, did you have anything else?
No, I had the floor for the moment. I'll defer. The one question I guess I have is, do we have the fence replacement anywhere in the Parks Master Plan? Have we planned to replace this fence prior to this particular project, City Administrator Betts?
I would have to do some research on that before I could provide you an answer.
I just wanted to see if it's on our R&R planning. I mean, because to me, if it's in the budget and it's in R&R and we were planning on doing it, I could see the expenditure. It's a lot easier for me to vote, you know, just to nod to the expenditure. I just want to see how we're managing these types of projects. So thank you. No further questions.
Councilor Hartman.
Thank you. Administrator Betts, if we decide to move forward with the 45,000, is this going to take away from a project that we already had on the list?
No, it would not take away from any of the projects that we already have budgeted in the Parks and Rec department.
Thank you.
Councilor Alexander.
Have we not gotten guidelines yet? I know we've got a couple $1 million coming to the city. There's no way any of that could be used. I mean, the tourism, all this that we talk about all the time, the downtown renovation, you know, this is what it's about. And this is sort of what needs to happen. And so none of that money could be allotted to do the fence.
I don't think money is the issue. We do have funding in the parks budget to cover for the fence. And so
Okay.
I don't think that's an issue or not. I think what the council needs to decide tonight is, do you want to go ahead and let the pickleball club do the project that they have the money for? Staff recommends that we go ahead and replace the fence since we're doing this all together and that we take it out of the parks budget. But I don't think the funding is an issue for the fence portion of that.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Okay, we do have another person that would like to speak from the audience. Do you want to let her in, Tammy?
It will be Ginger Zimpbaum.
Hello. So I'm basically throwing out my entire statement at this point after hearing the presentation. And I just want Suzanne and Donna to know that everything I'm about to say is in no way against them. I am here tonight to ask council to please reconsider their vote on the pickleball courts based on the fact that it does not feel very equitable or inclusive to many of the families in Gladstone, primarily in that a month prior to this original agreement with pickleball, the nonprofit youth sports leagues at Meldrum Bar were informed that they would be charged annual fees, annual use fees for the fields that they do a significant amount of maintenance on. In addition to the field fees, they're also having to absorb the parking fee costs, if not for our own players, but for visiting teams that are coming in. It is resulting in our nonprofit youth sports teams having to significantly increase player costs and or player fees. And this has had a very negative impact on many of the families in our community. I can tell you based on numbers in the school district that families with children in our community, about 40 to 50%, depending on the year, fall at or below the poverty line. Our students don't usually have the financial means to go out and play club sports. And so we have a very robust, wonderful recreational sports league that operates out of Meldrum Bar. And when we are increasing our player fees to absorb the costs that we were told were necessary because Gladstone does not have the funds to maintain their parks or to do other projects on the parks, the majority of those new fees are being borne on the backs of low-income families in the community. So the next month, when they announce that we are going to possibly make this deal with pickleball, it hurts. It hurts the families. They are a marginalized group of the community, group of the community that is not being treated equally it feels like in this situation when you turn around and then here's this private club that has a ton of funding, a ton of private funding behind them, and they're able to raise large sums of money to refinish a court. And yet here there are hundreds of families at Meldrum Bar who live in Gladstone who are now having to quit their sports because they can no longer afford the fees that you are putting on them. It's also been pointed out that there are a number of pickleball players on the Parks Board and also on a couple of them sitting on student council. And so to those in the community that these fees are affecting, it looks even more unfair. It looks like decisions are being made regarding Meldrum Bar Park that won't necessarily affect pickleball. And yet meanwhile, here's this other thing that's happening that will positively benefit pickleball. And so there are people in the community that feel that that is another piece of how unfair this situation is. Now, after listening to Suzanne and Donna, I mean, it sounds like a really cool group. They sound wonderful and inclusive. However, the fairness factor here is something that I am asking council to please consider, especially because you made a commitment to the residents of Gladstone to look at all of your issues with a standpoint of equity and inclusion. And this particular situation, something needs to happen. If you approve going forward with this deal with pickleball, please consider something for the sports teams down at Meldrum that will make this a more equitable situation. And thank you. And I want to thank you all for your time and your commitment to Gladstone. I really appreciate all of that you do for our city. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anything else from council?
Mayor Stemple, I'd like to follow up to Councilor Tracy's question regarding what is in the Parks Master Plan. So I have that in front of me in regards to Max Patterson Memorial Park, and it does say resurface tennis courts and improve to add accessible routes to the courts, restripe for multi-sport play for tennis, pickleball, and basketball, replace practice wall and fencing. So it is listed as an item in the management considerations in the Parks Master Plan.
Councilor Hartman.
Excuse me, I guess after hearing that, my question is, why don't we just do the project? If we had this in our plan and it seems like we have the money, I guess why aren't we just doing the project in whole and managing the project?
Could I respond to that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think what you're experiencing here is that this likely would not have risen to the level of a council goal unless there was a private partnership that was able to bring money to get this project done, because we did not budget for this project to be completed. But this is where you have fundraising and donations that want to enhance a public amenity. And so there is value in that, in recognizing, is this a time then to go ahead and make this project a priority? $75,000 is a lot of money to enhance the tennis court and the pickleball court. I think what we have to be clear about, that doesn't mean that they own that. It still is public property. And that's why we created the renovation agreement that specifically said that they can raise the funds to do this project. The city agrees not to sell the property, but it doesn't change any of the terms in their separate agreement. And I think that's kind of got mixed. I do understand that the pickleball club has said that they're willing to not consider any changes to the Gladstone Pickleball Club user agreement. So what we're really doing is focusing on, is there benefit to taking a donation to move this project along quicker? Because from our perspective, it would still be another year or two out before we would budget for this. And we would have to vet it through the Parks and Recreation Board as one of the projects to come out of the Parks Fund for that. So it's an opportunity to leverage private funding to get a public project done. There is value in doing that. And so I think what staff is saying is, you know, if the council wants to, they can go ahead and allow them to project manage that piece. The city is not going to agree to not charge them user fees. That's got to be a separate conversation that is equitable to all of the sports associations when we have those conversations. Our recommendation is that if you're going to allow the pickleball club to do this project, that you go ahead and get the new fence and do it right. But the city council could choose to put the old fence back up there, but we know that it's going to have to be replaced eventually anyway, and you might as well do it while you have the contract out there on site doing the project.
All right, anything else? All right, Councilor Alexander.
I just heard, did I hear it wrong? But did they say, the pickleball people say that anybody under 16 gets to play for free?
Yes.
Okay, so that's pretty good right there. It's not a whole lot of cost on low income families. Anybody under 16 that wants to play, that seems fair. Thank you.
Suzanne? You're muted.
Okay, sorry. You okay now? Right. Okay, I also wanted to say that we're going to do classes this summer and we aren't going to charge anything either. And we're targeting it for between 9 and 12. Okay, Bill.
Oh, I just wanted to say real quick, you talked about the families. The reason we made it under 16 play for free, because we know there's families that come out and it would be an exorbitant cost if they had 3 or 4, 5 children. So the parents will pay, but all their children pay. That was why we did that. For families that probably couldn't afford to pay the $20 a year, their children play for free. So we kind of took that in consideration when we made our bylaws.
Okay. And if I could throw in, we also have scholarships too that are available that we provide through the club for people who need it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, would somebody like to make a motion to allow the pickleball folks to continue their project and for the city to pitch in and do the new fence?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion was made by Councilor Alexander, seconded by Councilor Garlington to approve the pickleball club moving forward with the resurfacing project and for the city to pitch in and replace the fence. Any further discussion? Councilor Todd.
I muted and unmuted myself. I want to thank you, lovely ladies, for your excitement is very palpable, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate the citizen input that we've gotten in regards to this. I think there's just a lot of different things that are all being put into one little box. You know, the parking passes, the players, field fees, and then this. So I think we just really need to, as we vote, I think that it's important that what we are discussing is, and saying yes to specifically this, just for anybody who's watching, and that this, are we pulling their request that's in here, that about the 10-year free, no fees thing? Are we pulling that?
I would say yes, amended motion to pull the 10-year.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted, I know I've seen a lot of chatter, and it seems like it's a lot of different new things all being put into as one topic, and it's not. So I think we need to be really clear on that.
Yeah,
so
they're all separate discussions. Councilor Alexander, would you like to amend your motion to remove the 10-year user fees?
Yes, we can do that. I think Councilor Ripley has a question.
Hold on. Councilor Garlington, are you okay with a second on that amended motion?
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Ripley.
So just to be clear, we're separating the user fees. We're talking about the fence right now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So when we're done with this discussion, we need to talk about these fees and some of the comments Ginger made, because I think Ginger made some really good comments there. But that's a separate topic than the fence. So I think we need to finish the fence and then let's talk about some user fees.
Yeah, that'll be, I'm sure, lots of conversations. All right, Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
I could agree. Yep.
Counselor Hartman,
No.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Tracy,
No.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, motion has passed. So the whole user fee thing, that'll be, and I'm sure on many future agendas. So we'll just make sure that we capture that. So thank you. Oh, Counselor Ripley.
I think that's something we need to talk about right now, because there's a lot of people that are really irritated about this. And I know when we voted on, well, this started out as a boat ramp fee, and I think that would have been a lot better than what we've done now. But I guess it's gotten to enough people that I think we need to have that discussion of who's, you're paying fees at one park, you're not paying fees. I mean, that's obviously not fair to little kids that pickleball is getting no fees and somebody else is getting fees. But I think we need to have this discussion today and not wait.
Well, it's not on our agenda, and staff needs to probably pull a lot of documents together to have that discussion. So I don't think it's appropriate to do it now. I don't know what our July meeting agenda looks like, but we could certainly bring it up as soon as possible.
Mayor Stemple, if I could update the council to tell what the next steps are on the user fees, is staff will be meeting with all of the baseball, soccer associations. We can include the pickleball club. We will be doing that in June. In July, we will be going to the Parks Board to make a recommendation, and we will be coming back to City Council in August. So we do have a timeline mapped out to talk about the specific user fees.
Okay, Counselor Garlington, you raised your hand.
I only raised my hand because on page 6-7, where Public Works listed the things that he was taking care of, that was included in that he was working on those user fees. So yes,
Right.
I too would like to talk about those.
Okay. Next item is number 10, Gladstone Tourism Brand and Strategy Wayfinding Guidelines. Staff.
One moment. Okay, so as you all recall, Rotator was retained by the city to help us through our new Gladstone tourism brand and strategy the last couple of years. Their last work product to deliver to the city council is the Wayfinding Guidelines. And so tonight we're going to have Adam and Lance. I think Adam is going to do the presentation, which is in your council packet, to take you through their ideas of what the Gladstone wayfinding signs should look like going forward. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Adam.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you everyone for letting us have a seat at the table tonight. Lance sends his regards. He's not able to join us, so I'll be walking us through the presentation. We also have Lori Bell with us tonight, who's been one of our huge helpers throughout this retainer project with Gladstone. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And if I could get some thumbs up just to make sure everyone's seeing this correctly. Excellent. All right, so to reiterate, this is a presentation we shared with Jackie back at the end of April, and we're excited to bring this to you this evening. And what we're looking at here are wayfinding signage opportunities, some of which have been executed already, and others we are promoting as excellent options to pursue in the future. So what this document does is it outlines the design, the specs, and in some cases, the recommended placement of these signage pieces. And the collection has been organized in the following categories. We have the monument sign, welcome signs, street banners, directional callouts, civic spaces signs, park signs, signage for the Clackamas River pedestrian bridge, and also ideas for some scenic loop markers. Some things we'd like you to keep in mind as we go through this is that the majority of these wayfinding elements are designed for tourists and visitors of Gladstone, not necessarily the city's residents. So therefore, the colors and the layout of each item have been specifically chosen with that in mind. It is possible that the installation of some or even all of these signs will require a permit It's possible that the suggested placement that we're recommending will not be allowed under existing signage ordinances. We're trusting that the city will take the responsibility of confirming those details before installation. And lastly, while we outline the design, size, and material for each sign, we don't specify hardware needed to affix them in place. We trust that that will be determined under the guidance of the fabricator once the final placement locations are established. So moving forward, taking a look at the monument sign, the purpose of this particular sign is to evoke a sense of arrival and place as people enter the city. One has already been installed near Stocker Park, and we also recommend installing one on McLaughlin Boulevard. Here's a picture of the one that was recently installed back in April. And we're also recommending placement here on McLaughlin. An idea is at this corner with Arlington, but we also don't know for certain if that is a viable placement option, but to give you a sense of how that might feel as visitors arrive from Oregon City. Welcome signs have also been placed throughout several locations of the city. They look like this, saying glad you're here. We have street banners up along Portland Ave. They can also be multiplied and extended along the Ave and other streets if desired. And then some new signage here. We're looking at directional callouts because we identified several locations in Gladstone where one could be just a short walk or drive away from a point of interest and not even realize it. So these signs are intended to help address those blind spots by calling attention to key points of interest as they relate to tourism. If possible and permitted, we recommend installing each sign on existing hardware that's already in place. This will help reduce cost and the overall footprint in the city. So some ideas that we're looking at are signage directing people toward the downtown core, toward the Riverwalk, Meldrum Bar Park, and Doll Beach. Here's a recommended location for the sign pointing toward downtown core as people may be walking there along the riverfront, perhaps from the Holiday Inn Hotel, and they see this sign. Granted, there's a sign above it that does point to downtown, but we're hoping that this branded sign will draw even more attention to the businesses down there. Here we have the directional sign for the Riverwalk. We envision possibly someone walking out of the hotel looking for some scenic routes, and they see this sign here, which directs them to High Rocks, but they may not know that just a few blocks away is a beautiful river walk. We're hoping that this sign will direct them to connect them with Cross Park. And then we have an existing sign right now already on the street pointing left toward Meldrum Bar Park. It's fairly small and nondescript, and we're hoping that this branded sign will draw even more attention and connect with the signage going in there as they enter Meldrum Bar. And then as they proceed down Meldrum Bar Park Road, wanting to draw attention to the fact that if they turn left, there's another park there with Doll Beach being further down the road to the left. Thinking about civic spaces signage and tying it into the brand, these signs are meant to identify notable civic buildings and spaces. They're more resident-centric than they are tourist-centric, which is why we chose the neutral color palette matching the signage seen there inside City Hall, as well as those monument signs. But we do believe that implementing them throughout the city will help extend and connect with this tourism brand. The iterations shown on the next page, they're not an exhaustive list. They're just meant to serve as a springboard for other implementation possibilities. For example, we could have one outside of Public Works saying something like glad to work here, perhaps the powwow tree, glad to meet here, community garden, as you see here in this mock-up, glad to grow here, the senior center, glad to thrive here, and maybe even the high school, glad to learn here. Again, not an exhaustive list, just some ideas to work off of. Looking at park signage, we already have designed and had the Meldrum Bar Park sign fabricated, and at the time of writing, it was scheduled to be installed this spring or summer. Looking forward to seeing that in place. And then basing off of that design, we've created a system of park signage that you see here to call out and welcome people to the various beautiful parks throughout Gladstone. We've given two options here. The primary one you see with a welcome to banner at the top. The other one drops the banner, includes the park hours below, but we're also open to redesigning the two into a version that includes both the park hours and the welcome to band on top, if desired. So again, we have several parks to work with throughout Gladstone, such as Max Patterson, Charles Ames Memorial, Cross Park, etc. We believe that Public Works and Parks and Rec are going to be the most knowledgeable experts in terms of best placement. So what you see here in the mock-up is just to give you a sense of how it feels in its environment, not necessarily a specific recommendation for a specific placement. So we're hoping that their expertise will help inform the best placement for each of these signs. Next, we're looking at an idea for the Clackamas River Walking Bridge, which you see located here on the map. These particular signs, they're not so much about wayfinding as they are about evoking an emotion with uplifting messaging for the visitors of Gladstone. The idea is to space them out on the beams of the pedestrian bridge that spans over the river to create a progression of words that form a whole message as they walk across the bridge. We've developed two different concepts. You'll see those in the following pages. The layout and design is the same, but each you'll find has a different style of messaging. The first concept we're presenting is a little more straight down the middle for tourism, and the language reads as follows. They'll first see a Gladstone welcomes you sign. As they progress, it says, "Come here and explore our rivers, our roads, and everything in between. Welcome all, glad you're here." And then as they head southbound away from Gladstone, they see, "Thank you for visiting Gladstone. Come back and relive the memories made, the treasures found. Tell your family, tell your friends, all are welcome. Glad you came." This next concept is a little more poetic, focusing less on the tourism aspect and a little more on community and personal journeys. This one says, Gladstone welcomes you. Lose yourself in the stillness of the here and now. Follow our rivers, wander our roads, roam our trails, and find yourself in Gladstone. As they leave the city, they see, "Thank you for visiting Gladstone. Safe travels on your journey to other rivers, to other roads, and other trails. But may your path someday lead back to Gladstone." Some specs here on the size and materials of the signage, and a mock-up of how that might feel as they walk across the bridge. Then lastly, we're looking at scenic loop markers. We've taken the time to map out several different walking or running or cycling loops that navigate along the rivers and through key points of interest, such as parks and downtown Portland Ave. If desired, the city can formalize one or several of these loops and promote them to visitors. And if they're formalized, it would be wise to create a map that could live online. It could be printed and handed out, left as a leave behind at the hotel, or physical signage to help users visualize the route. These mile markers can be used to help pedestrians follow the path and maintain a sense of distance traveled. And if multiple routes are formalized, these markers could be created with different brand colors, each color representing a different route. We also recommend collaborating with any existing walking or running clubs to vet the proposed loops that we're looking at tonight. So the first one we're looking at is a 5K loop, and we're identifying it as the Gladstone Waterfront 5K because it wanders all along the waterfront throughout its entire course. It's very pedestrian friendly, and it's worth mentioning that it runs through both Gladstone and Oregon City, thereby creating a great opportunity to collaborate and bring people together from both cities, perhaps even for specific events along that route. Holiday Inn 5K, we were creating this with visitors, overnight visitors specifically in mind, who may want to explore some of Gladstone on foot. The guests at Holiday Inn will be more likely to explore if they know that the scenic waterfront expansive parks, and downtown core are all within reasonable walking distance. This is a 3.5-mile loop that incorporates the high school, which is central to the community, downtown Portland Ave with all those great businesses, onto the beautiful waterfront and into Meldrum Bar Park. And then lastly, for those who want to extend their mileage, this 5-mile loop connects with the trolley trail and spans the length of the Clackamas waterfront pathways. It also connects to Meldrum Bar Park. And again, we're representing these with specific start and termination points, but those can be modified as desired. So in summary, what we're looking at here, we have a monument sign. One is already in place. We're recommending placement of another one on McLaughlin Boulevard. We have welcome signs in place. We have banners in place, and then we're recommending directional callouts for key points of interest, extending the brand through signage for civic spaces. The Meldrum Bar sign is going in soon, if not already. More park signs to connect with the Meldrum Bar Park sign and draw more interest to the parks there. The pedestrian bridge signs to create a sense of arrival and place there along the bridge, and the scenic loop markers to encourage people to explore the city on foot. And then lastly, we've included a list of vendors that we've already worked with to create the signs that are existing. So you have on reference and on file who to contact for specific signage. We worked with Malaya Signs for the signage you see in City Hall, as well as the monument sign, and they were fantastic, and we couldn't recommend them enough moving forward. That's all we have for you tonight. Again, thank you so much for allowing us a seat at the table. We've been just thrilled with the progress that you've made as a city, welcoming us in and allowing us to serve you in your tourism efforts.
Thank you. Wow, that's amazing. Just little things like, I mean, not that they're little, but just signs can make such a huge difference. I believe the large Meldrum Bar sign is already installed. Is that correct, Jackie?
Got installed 2 weeks ago, yes.
Yeah, it's
wonderful.
It's really big. It's wonderful. So do you need an actual motion from us tonight, Jackie, or just a consensus?
No, I think we wanted to show you this. You know, this is what inspires me about being in Gladstone, the potential that we have here. And Adam and Lance and Lori Bell have done a phenomenal job with rebranding Gladstone. And so really, we wanted to present this to you tonight. We are going to thoughtfully put a group of people together in the community to talk about what the next steps are and work with the Parks and Rec Board to determine where do we start implementing these. But unless the City Council had any concerns about it, we just wanted to present this to you and then move forward for the next couple of years.
Okay, I'll just go through the council. Council Hartman.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you. This was amazing to look at. This is like the fun part, you know. The only comment I'm going to make is just, you know, in hopes that we do honor our resolution 1184 as we continue to improve our practices. If we can have the comment of just owning or honoring the Indigenous folks that this land belongs to, and how we can integrate that into these signages and how we can honor them in a poetic way that you have listed out here, I think is something I would just like to put that on the record is something that I would like to see. So thank you. That's all.
All right, Councilor Ripley.
I think it all looks good. I think signs are good. People need to know where they're going. So I'm good. I'm good with everything.
Great, thank you. Councilor Tracy.
Thank you, Adam, for your presentation. Going back, I don't know, are we talking 2 years now? I think we were working with you closely. I think we picked the right firm. I like what has transpired across the community. You know, change is hard for folks, but I'm getting a lot more comments that are positive about the signage. And I think that this additional signage starts to really tie the community together. Wes notwithstanding and managing to get into a cooperative partnership with them on the bridge. I think the bridge idea is innovative. The Burma Shave signs are, basically they're Americana at its best for advertising. I think it really looks good, and I like how you all laid it out so that you're looking at things like loops. I mean, you're actually creating some things for us in our community that we're aware of, but they're not really being highlighted. So, job well done. I certainly support the wayfinding and certainly support the signage. Good job to you and your firm. I think it's been really a positive process working with you, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Alexander.
I think everything looks wonderful too. I like the direction. People are always asking me, where's Doll Beach? Where's Max? And if you've got signage that shows you the way clear and precise, and I think you guys did a great job and I like it. Thanks.
Councillor Todd.
Oh, this is the stuff that makes my heart sing. This is the stuff. And being a downtown business owner in the core, I appreciate the wayfinding, of course. I also live in the downtown core area, and I'm amazed how many times I see people on bikes looking confused, and I'm like, you want to go that way, and then down the street. It was so much fun working with Lori Bell on this too. She's infectious with everything she does. I also have a short-term rental here in town. Amazed how many people want to come to Gladstone. I'm telling you, it is booked all the time. So I've tried to come up with, you want to do a walking path? And I tried to do it myself and put it into a little book. This stuff is going to be great. I hosted a family for several weeks that were basically their home was being renovated in West Lent. They lived there for 45 years. They didn't know any of downtown Gladstone and the waterfront was there until I gave them direction. They literally lived 3 miles as the crow flies for 40 years and came over here. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, Councillor Garlington.
Well, I'm just excited that everybody else is excited. I feel like we're having a party finally. That's what I like. So I just, I read over this packet and I thought, well, all of that looks really nice. And then to hear Adam actually bring it to life was really exciting. And along with Councillor Tracy, I love that whole bridge idea. I just think that's just really awesome. I only had one thing, and that was I wondered if we could add fields to the parks that have baseball fields. Like Meldrum has fields and Max Patterson has field. Well, anyway, all the little parks that have fields. And I love the walking loops. I hope we can have maps, to be able to hand out at different places. Where Councillor Todd was talking about having short-term rentals. That's the kind of, allow those people to have that kind of stuff to hand out so that people are engaged in walking, are engaged in getting out there and walking around and seeing what Gladstone has to offer. And I'm excited. That is really awesome. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jackie. You guys have really done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The only thing I have to say, and I have to put it on record, is that I did not like the colors at all. And Jackie said, just sit back and let it grow on you. And it has. So yes, they're wonderful. Thank you. You guys have done such a great job. So I think you have direction. Is there any council member that has issue with staff moving forward with this? I don't see anybody having issues. So I would say go forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks again, everyone. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you. Next is Resolution 1193, making an increase in the 2019-2021 biennial budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Staff.
Okay, so let's keep that party moving forward. Our finance consultant, Kathy Brucker, is going to walk you through the staff report. Basically, whenever the city is going to receive federal, state funding, we have to do a resolution to budget for that increase. And so I will go ahead and have Kathy explain to you exactly the amounts and what they're for.
Yes, hello, good evening. This won't be quite as exciting as the Wayfarers. There's no doubt about it, but one of those just technicalities we have to do. So this presented resolution increases the budget by $383,314 for the COVID-19 funding that we received through the CARES Act, and then $128,532 for the Meldrum Bar dredging project for a total budget for the 1921 biennium of $54,509,86. These grants were of an unforeseen nature and were not included in the current budget. This increase is permitted under Oregon Budget Law ORS 294.3383 and will allow the city to stay in compliance with local budget law while utilizing available grant funds for city emergencies and projects. So we also included an exhibit that illustrates the usage of the CARES Act funding that was received over this past year. You can see that, you know, it was widely utilized throughout various departments within the city and really of an impactful nature, not only for the city, but for our businesses and also our residents. So that basically sums it up, and wanted to know if there are any other questions I can address regarding this.
That was quick.
It is.
Wow.
It is very quick. Yes, it's a housekeeping detail we have to do at the end of the fiscal year. One thing that I would like to mention is that within the budget for the 1921 biennium, the only adjustments we have had to make were for unforeseen grant or donation fundings that we received. Other change, you know, we stayed entirely within our budget otherwise. And so I think have finished up the year very well.
Well, increases because people are giving us money is always a good thing.
Very much so.
Good thing. All right, Councillor Hartman, any questions or concerns?
No, thank you.
Councillor Ripley.
No questions. Thank you.
Councillor Tracy.
No questions, Mayor. Thanks.
Councillor Alexander.
None, thank you.
Councillor Todd.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Councillor Garlington.
No, thank you very much.
All right, would somebody like to make the motion that's on page 11.2, and they made it really simple for us? Okay, Councillor Garlington.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 1193 of the City of Gladstone, Oregon, adopting a budget increase of $511,846,000. Did I say that wrong? 511,846 for the biennium years 2019, 2021 for the COVID-19 pandemic assistance and dredging improvements at Meldrum Bar Park, resulting in a total 2019 2021 biennium budget of $54,509,086.
It's a big number. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Councillor Garlington and seconded by Councillor Todd to approve resolution 1193. Any further discussion? Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Councillor Tracy,
Aye.
Councillor Alexander,
Yes.
Councillor Ripley,
Yes.
Councillor Garlington,
Yes.
Councillor Todd,
Yes.
Councillor Hartman,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes. This doesn't need a second reading. This is just a one-time. Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right. Resolution 1193 has passed. Next is item 12, resolution 1194, recognizing Juneteenth as an annual official holiday with the City of Gladstone. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This proposed resolution is an opportunity to celebrate history and engage in culture. Juneteenth has become the most prominent Emancipation Day holiday in the U.S. Councilor Anessa Hartman has requested that the Gladstone City Council consider a resolution recognizing Juneteenth as an annual legal holiday. And I will turn it over to Councilor Hartman to go through the staff report.
Thank you, Administrator Betts. Madam Mayor and fellow councilors, Juneteenth, also known to some as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, and Emancipation Day. On January 1st, 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the enslaved people. It paved the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States. It took about 2.5 years, on June 19th, 1865, for this news to reach Galveston, Texas, which is where the celebration of Juneteenth originated. On July 9th, 2020, the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners unanimously passed a resolution to observe Juneteenth starting this year, June 19th, 2021. It urged cities across the county to observe the day in an effort to promote racial healing, reconciliation, restoration, justice, and equitable opportunities for all people. On July 28th, 2020, Gladstone hosted a listening session to hear from its community on the battles of racism that people face on a daily basis in our own community. Through this, on November 10th, 2020, the city adopted Resolution 1184 on a 6-to-1 vote, condemning violence and racism directed at Black, African Americans, and all people of color, and affirming the city of Gladstone's commitment to equity. And within this resolution, the city of Gladstone committed to reviewing its policies, ordinances, and practices. On April 8th, 2021, House Bill 2168, which establishes Juneteenth as a legal state holiday, was cleared by the House on a unanimous vote. And just recently, June 1st, 2021, the Senate approved unanimously to pass June 19th as official state holiday to begin June 19th, 2022. I bring this to the council now because the city has had a full year to acknowledge this historic day since being brought to the table by the county. I bring it to you now before happily the Senate approved to make it an official state holiday. And I bring it to the table now because we owe it to our community and our Black and African American residents to show them we see them, we hear them, and we honor them. And as House Majority Leader Representative Warner stated, this is our American history, and far too long the experiences, the contributions, and the stories of Black and African American people have been excluded from our nation's legacy, Oregon's history, and minimized in history books. So this is not about being a resolution factory. This is about us taking the time to recognize, honor, and acknowledge the strength and resilience of our Black and African American residents and show them that we are continuing to dismantle these systems of oppression. I want to thank those who wrote in support and those who might be able to speak soon. And if allowed, Representative Mark Meek has decided to attend and would like to sing for us. He did not submit his time in time, so if that is not allowed, that is fine. But he is available to show his support and his wonderful singing. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to present this, and I open it up for discussion.
All right, well, I'll go through council first, and then we'll hear the speakers that would like to chime in at the end. Councilor Ripley.
I have nothing to say. I think this is a great idea.
All right, Councilor Alexander.
Oh, absolutely.
That was Councilor Todd.
Oh, absolutely. And I would like to hear Representative Meek sing as well.
Of course, we could probably make an exception for.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Councilor Garlington.
I'll use the word absolutely also because it sounds like a really good word right now. And I too would like to hear Mr. Meek sing. So, okay.
Councilor Tracy.
Yeah, I want to thank Councilor Hardman for bringing this forward. Obviously, yeah, this is something I support wholeheartedly. Thank you.
All right, could we call up the folks that would like to speak?
Would you like Mr. Meek to go first or at the end?
Oh, I think I'd like him to go at the end. Wrap it up with Mark singing.
All right. The first will be Sierra Cook.
And remind people we have, it's 3 minutes each. So there we go. Sierra, you're muted.
You're muted.
Okay, thank you guys so much. Can you hear me now? Awesome. Okay. I'm speaking tonight in support of the resolution to recognize Juneteenth as an annual holiday. Last summer, the city held a listening session to better understand the concerns of our Black neighbors and our neighbors of color, and it's clear that we have work to do as a city to live up to our core value of equity. Passing the resolution condemning racism was a great start to this work, but we need to continue to listen to the lived experiences of our non-white neighbors. As a white person, I know that talking about race can be uncomfortable, and it can be easy to respond defensively when confronted with the reality of racism in our community. The reality is that racism does exist in Gladstone in both the actions of individuals and the systems that we have created. Confronting racism requires both acknowledging and addressing racism where it exists, but also affirming and celebrating Black life. Juneteenth is a holiday that celebrates the contribution of Black Americans and acknowledges their hardships. It's a time for education, reflection, and cultural appreciation. We must continue to listen to the voices of our Black neighbors and our neighbors of color, and establishing Juneteenth as a city holiday is another step in that direction. It signals to our Black neighbors that they are seen, they are valued, and that they matter. Gladstone is working hard to become a tourist destination, especially for folks coming from Portland. Demonstrating our commitment to inclusion and diversity will help us draw people to our town. Celebrating this holiday is an excellent opportunity to demonstrate the positive, welcoming spirit of Gladstone. For all of these reasons, I urge Council to adopt the resolution establishing Juneteenth as a holiday.
Okay, the next will be Ben Hildner.
Hey, good evening. Sounds like I don't need to give a whole speech, but I am really enthusiastic about this proposal. Thank you, Councilor Hartman, for bringing it forward. I will just say I'm proud that this is unanimous. It sounds unanimous and unambiguous. I will quote James Baldwin and say that I don't know how most white folks in this country feel, but I can only conclude how they feel by the state of their institutions. And this passing unanimously with no argument, I think is saying a lot to our neighbors and friends and people who we are hoping to welcome and invite into our community. That's all.
Okay, hold tight for just a moment. We have two that are requesting to speak at the same time. The first is Monel Lumampas and Marley Zimpbaum, so hold tight for just a moment.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Marley Zimpbaum, and I'm with Monel Lumapis on behalf of the Gladstone Student Advocates for Equity Club, or SAFE, and sharing our support for the Juneteenth resolution. As a town, we need to be a part of the positive change that is happening in our society, and by recognizing Juneteenth as a holiday, we are making our community more welcoming to all by acknowledging our past as a city and a country.
Juneteenth is just a huge marker in history, and it's a moment when America truly began to fulfill its promise to its citizens of freedom and the pursuit of happiness. Despite that, it remains relatively obscure. And celebrating this day not only commemorates the end of slavery, but it begins important conversations about current day conflicts, as well as encourages education about the history of race in America and its effects today. It's important that we as a community work to foster these discussions in an effort to create a safer and more inclusive environment for everyone. Thank you.
Okay. The next will be Kelly Monahan. Well, hang on just a moment, please. There we go.
You're muted, Kelly.
Thank you for the guidance. I'm also here in support of resolution 1194. I think it's a natural and appropriate follow-up to our resolution 1184 from November. I'm really enthused to hear all the other support, and I don't have a lot to say because others have said most of it, and I agree. So thank you for having me here tonight. And I love Anessa's suggestion about integrating Indigenous elements into our tourism strategy and our signage. And I think we need an arts council. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, anything else from council?
Representative Mark Meek.
Oh, yes, that's right. We need to have Mark sing for us. Hey, Mark.
Hello there, everybody. Counselor, Mayor Stemple, all you counselors. It's great to see you all, and it's been very honoring to watch all your great work today and all the good things that we're doing here in Gladstone. And also want to just thank Councilor Hartman for inviting me tonight. And I wasn't prepared to sing, but in support of Juneteenth, you know, I'm very proud of the resolution and the bill we passed to make June 19th and Juneteenth celebration starting in 2022 an official state holiday. And that's I'm looking forward to that next year. And I'm looking forward to a lot of more celebrations in our communities. The city of Gladstone, City of Oregon City is having one. I'm going to be attending that one this year. If you want to come and see me sing in person live, you're welcome to come. But I'm happy to be invited next year if you guys have a Juneteenth celebration. And I will sing the first stanza of Lift Every Voice and Sing in honor of your great resolution. So, lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Thank you so much for having me on this tonight. Great work. Good to see you all.
When I first became mayor, Mark came to the meeting and sang happy birthday to the city of Gladstone, which was amazing. First experience with Mark singing. Thank you very, very much. Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Stemple, if I may, I have one logistical question that I would like to ask the city council. Absolutely, the celebration can continue this year, but when you make it a legal official holiday, that is a compensated benefit to employees. Gladstone has 3 collective bargaining agreements, and we need to work with them to make sure that adding the holiday is acceptable. But I'm wondering, can we mirror the state of Oregon's process to where you approve it tonight, but it becomes effective June 19th in 2022. Would there be any concerns with the city council in mirroring what the state holiday is?
Anybody have any problems with that? No? Counselor Tracy? Okay. All right.
I don't have everybody on my screen, but I can't see Councilor Hartman's reaction. It's her resolution that she's carrying forward. So I don't know what her stance is on it.
I was shaking my head that I do not have an issue with it.
Okay, well, then I think that's fine. All right, somebody needs to make a motion then. And we want
Hartman.
Make a motion for all of us.
Yeah, and make the motion with the caveat that it would be put in place for 2022.
Okay. I make a motion to approve resolution number 1194, a resolution for the recognition of Juneteenth as a annual legal holiday within the city of Gladstone, amending section 3 beginning June 19th, 2022.
And I'll second it.
Motion was made by Councillor Hartman and seconded by Councillor Alexander to approve resolution 1194 with the beginning date of 2022. All right, any other discussion?
We're gonna all do karaoke now, right?
Councillor Garlington, you have a question?
I was just wondering, does this carry over then to the school district as well? Or or the school district just follows the state as that happens? I'm just asking.
My assumption, yeah, is that they would follow the state.
Oh, okay.
And us as well. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Tracy,
Yes.
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, resolution 1194 has passed. And a question on this one again, do we need a second reading or is this fine?
Nope, it's approved. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next is item 13, discussion regarding the municipal court judge position.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In January in 2021, the Gladstone City Council entered into a personal services contract with Amy Lindgren to be the pro tem municipal judge. The agreement is in effect until July 31st. Per the Gladstone City Charter, the municipal judge is appointed by and reports directly to the City Council. At your May 25th work session, you asked to have this place on the item to discuss some options that you have tonight. You could choose to appoint Amy Lindgren as the permanent municipal court judge and direct staff to prepare a permanent agreement for the mayor and Ms. Lindgren to execute. The city council could choose to extend Amy's current agreement for another 6 months, or the city council could choose to go through a recruitment process for a permanent municipal court judge. And so I would like to get guidance from a majority of the council on how you would like to proceed.
We had talked, Jackie and I had talked about putting the contract in place and then doing a review in what, a year or 2 years? Is that what we talked about? Which is what we should have been doing all along with our judge, but didn't?
If you were to enter into a permanent agreement, it would be for 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, you should do an evaluation to determine if you wanted to extend that agreement.
Okay, great. Councilor Hartman, questions or concerns?
Questions for me, thank you.
All right, Councilor Ripley.
I think the only comment that I have is every comment that I've heard about this new judge has been outstanding. So I think we definitely want to keep her around real long.
Great. Councilor Alexander.
I agree. I went and watched her. in action. She's great, and all the people, even people that were going to court, I talked to a couple of that said, wow, she was fair, she was nice. So I think she's a keeper.
Great. Counselor Todd.
I feel bad that I haven't actually got to see her preside. But I was set up for to go see her was spring break, and so there was a different judge that was in there, so I never got to see her. So when she did her her presentation, that was that last month, I was really impressed with her. I liked her ideas of ways to get compliance. I just thought that she was a really good fit for us, and so I'm fine with definitely keeping her.
Counselor Tracy.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Counselor Garlington.
I would have to say I have also heard a lot of really good things about what's going on in our court system and the positive reaction that people have had. So I am glad that we're moving forward with this contract.
Well, we're not moving forward quite yet, but hopefully.
Right.
I've heard great things about her too, and having dealt with the judges in the past, she's so approachable. She's proactive, and she has great ideas. That really impressed me. So would somebody like to make a motion to either hire her as the permanent municipal court judge with an evaluation in 2 years, or extending it for 6 months, or starting the recruitment process? Those are our options.
I'll make a motion. We hire her right now with a review in 2 years.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Counselor Alexander and seconded by Counselor Ripley to hire Amy Lindgren as our permanent municipal court judge, to direct staff to create a permanent agreement and have her review in 2 years. Do we have any further discussion? I see none. Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Garlington.
Yes.
Counselor Todd.
Yes.
Counselor Hartman. Counselor Tracy.
Aye.
Counselor Alexander.
Yes.
Counselor Ripley.
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes. Looks like we have a new judge. Wonderful. Do you need anything else from us, Jackie, on this one?
Nope, we'll get the contract ready and let Amy know.
Okay, great. Next, do we have any business carried forward?
I have nothing further tonight. Thank you.
Okay, business from the audience is next. And as I say many times, for those folks that would like to speak, the deadline to accept comments was by noon today, and that we allow 3 minutes for public comment. So Tammy, could you call the first one up, please?
Yes, Mayor. I have received 7 people who submitted before the noon deadline today that would like to speak during business from the audience. The first will be Marna Barnes.
There I am. I'm unmuted. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Am I unmuted? Okay. Good to see you all. I want to talk about the parking fee at Meldrum Bar Park. While I agree that we should not carry the burden entirely as taxpayers to pay for a regional park, I do have some concerns about restricting it to 1 pass per household. We were originally told that Gladstone residents would not have to pay to park at Meldrum Bar. And I think many of us signed on to that. It seemed equitable since we have carried the burden of maintaining and improving that park for decades. I don't know exactly when Meldrum Bar was instituted in the city, but it's been a number of years. But as it turned out, it looks like we're only going to be allowed 1 parking pass per household. Well, how many households are Gladstone residents and citizens? I would submit that there are no households in Gladstone who are residents and citizens. It's the individuals residing within those households who are the residents, citizens, and taxpayers of this community. It seems to me to be a bit disingenuous to only allow one pass per household when you have a husband and wife, young drivers who need to go to the park for various sporting events. People have different schedules that they need to adjust to in their lives. So it just seems to me that instead of saying one household, it should be at least a couple or two or three, or actually everybody in that family or in that household should be able to park for free at Meldrum Bar. And I also want to show you, this is a Discover Pass. And for $30 as a non-resident in the state of Washington, I can buy this pass for an entire year. Again, I don't live in Washington. I'm not a resident of Washington, but for $30, I can buy that pass. It gives me access to 100 developed state parks, more than 350 primitive recreation sites, including campgrounds and picnic areas, nearly 700 water access points. As a scuba diver, this is important to me. Nearly 2,000 miles of designated water and land recreation trails, more than 80 natural areas, and more than 30 wildlife areas. I, as an Oregonian, can buy this pass for an entire year for $30, and it gives me all of these amenities. The city of Gladstone is asking us to pay $40 for a year for one little city park. I think that's an arbitrary number, and I would like for you to reconsider that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next.
Next is Sierra Cook.
Hi, thank you. I'm speaking tonight as a citizen who is frustrated at the current dysfunction of our city government. I sent a version of this letter to Mayor Stemple and I didn't receive a response back, so I'd like to take this opportunity to share it here. For the last few months, I've been paying more attention to city government by attending council meetings and following closely the work of you, our elected officials. There is so much work to be done to improve the lives of the citizens of our city. As we emerge from the multiple disasters of 2020 and 2021, there's an incredible opportunity for rapid growth in the quality of life for our citizens by improving our parks, our schools, fixing our crumbling infrastructure, and supporting our local businesses. Each member of you, our mayor and our city council, is there because you have the support of our community and our faith in your ability to lead. You have the potential to do so much good. That's why it's so deeply heartbreaking to see our city government spend time and energy on personal attacks and drama instead of on improving the city. There have been so many personal attacks, it's hard to keep track, and I don't have time to address them all here. And now the attacks are continuing. I see that the mayor has listed her pronouns as me in this council meeting. For folks who are unaware of the practice of using identifying pronouns, let me explain. Trans people can sometimes be inadvertently identified by incorrect pronouns. Proactively identifying pronouns is a way that trans people can ensure that they're treated with respect. It's good practice in situations where you're working with new people to identify your pronouns to normalize the practice and show consideration to others, especially trans people. Belittling trans people by making fun of identifying pronouns is a cheap attack and is shocking, especially coming from a person in a position of power like the mayor. Mayor Stemple, I've heard you speak with passion against bullying. Why are you choosing to belittle trans people during a council meeting? The suicide rates of trans kids are significantly higher than cisgender kids. This additional risk of suicides goes down when trans kids are treated with empathy and respect. Queer and trans kids deserve our love, our empathy, and our respect. Trans kids exist in our community in Gladstone, and they matter. I'm going to say it again. Trans kids live here in Gladstone in our community, and they matter. They deserve our affirmation, our love, and they deserve our respect. Mayor Stemple, you are in a position of power and have the ability to influence others. I'm appealing to you directly to drop the drama and the attacks and to treat all of your constituents with respect. Do the work that the city needs. Fix our crumbling infrastructure, support our struggling businesses and our young families working hard to keep our kids healthy during a pandemic. Knock off the inappropriate and unprofessional attacks.
Thank you. Next.
Next is Ann Jenkins.
Hi, my name is Ann Jenkins and my pronouns are she, her. The panel here tonight received this letter today. However, the community wanted this letter read into the record. Dear Mayor Stemple and City Council members, this letter is to address concerns about Bill Osborne obtaining and sharing confidential city records. Mr. Osborne currently holds a public service position on Gladstone's Traffic and Safety Committee. He was appointed to that position by the City Council and by accepting that position, agreed to abide by all associated laws, ordinances, and resolutions. At the May 11th, 2021 City Council meeting, Mr. Osborne spoke during public comments. He read confidential personnel documents of a city employee without the consent or knowledge of the employee, the council, or the city attorney. He misrepresented facts without investigating the subject matter. While presenting this information, he personally attacked council members Matt Tracy and Tracy Todd. Mr. Osborne added comments about times when Matt Tracy had opposed his opinion, the mayor's opinion, and the mayor's sister's opinion. It appears this public disclosure may have been retaliatory in nature. After the meeting, Mr. Osborne provided these confidential city records to the public online and via email. His distribution to areas included Clackamas County, 24 surrounding neighborhoods, and even went across state lines. He included false information in his distributions. The City Council then held a public meeting regarding the unauthorized and illegal release of this confidential attorney-client privilege information. During this meeting, attended by Mr. Osborne, the city attorney, city administrator, and all council members, except Mayor Stemple and Councilman Alexander, criticized Mr. Osborne's actions, even after learning at this meeting that his reckless actions potentially exposed the city and its taxpayers to liability in future lawsuits, that the council publicly condemned his actions, and that what he did violated ethics laws and local ordinances. Mr. Osborne continued to comment and distribute the confidential documents, stating that he did not regret his actions and would repeat them if given the opportunity. This is evidence of Mr. Osborne's complete disregard for the well-being of the city of Gladstone and his duties as a city committee appointee. As Gladstone residents, taxpayers, and caring neighbors, we are concerned about the following actions of Traffic and Safety Committee member Bill Osborne. 1, he obtained information that he knew was a confidential city record, including a handwritten HR complaint by Jackie Betts and an attorney-client confidential memorandum. 2, read confidential city documents in a public meeting without first consulting Ms. Betts, the council, or the city attorney to obtain relevant facts or permission. 3, posted this confidential information on social media sites, including Facebook, Chit Chat, Nextdoor, and Clackamas County Crime Watch. 4, added false information in the comments and posts on social media. And 5, continued his disclosures and false comments even after he knew he was exposing the taxpayers to potential lawsuits and the council voted for an investigation. We believe Mr. Osborne's actions violate Gladstone City Ordinance 1484, ORS Chapter 244 of Government Ethics, and 3, the Council Resolution 1129.
Thank you. Next. Councilor Ripley.
Just for a little correction, you might want to go back and recheck the meeting on that, because I'm pretty sure Greg isn't the one that was, Greg was for the investigation, looking into it also. So I'd go back and rewatch that meeting, just to make sure your data and your information is correct. But otherwise, thanks for calling in. I think he has some good stuff to say. Thank you.
I believe we all voted for the investigation. Next.
Next is Monel Lumampas.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm Monel. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a junior here at GHS. So besides using someone's name, pronouns are just the most common way you refer to a person. Using a person's pronouns correctly shows them respect, and using the wrong pronouns or ignoring people's pronouns erases those who are trans, non-binary, and otherwise gender non-conforming. That in itself is an act of oppression, whether intentional or non-intentional. Using someone's pronouns affirms and respects their identity, and invalidating pronouns can lead to someone feeling excluded, alienated, offended, or lead to dysmorphia because it encourages the idea that you need to look a certain way to use certain pronouns. A statistic from this Trevor project states that transgender and non-binary youth who have their pronouns respected by most people in their lives are 50% less likely to attempt suicide. This shows just how important pronoun usage is to a person. You can't assume someone's pronouns, and you can't tell what their pronouns are by their appearance. It's a good idea to use they, them pronouns if you don't know someone's pronouns for certain, but things like Zoom names can make this easier. Not just those in the LGBTQIA community can have their pronouns in their bios, Zoom display names, or at the end of their email sign-offs, because allies and those who are cisgender having it there normalizes it for everyone and creates a safer space for others to then share their own pronouns. This is why it's important for those on City Council to lead the way and place proper pronouns in their display names. Pronouns may be a small way to express identity, but it can have a huge impact. For me, it's important that we take every chance, however small, to respect and normalize this and to emphasize how important pronouns really are. When someone shares their pronouns, they're also sharing a part of their identity, and we need to respect and honor that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
The next, there's two that are next that requested to speak together.
All right.
Marley Zimpbaum and Taylor Kalababa.
Dear Mayor Stemple, Gladstone City Council members, and City Administrator, my name is Marley Zimpbaum, and I am with Taylor Kalababa, and we are representatives of the student-run SAFE Club at Gladstone High School. SAFE stands for Student Advocates for Equity and was formed with the goals of inclusivity and safety for our students of color and as well the LGBTQ community at Gladstone schools. We spend a lot of time working on ways to create a safe environment for students to prevent suicide, depression, and other social or mental health issues that can be associated with the mistreatment and discrimination of historically marginalized groups. We are making a comment tonight to ask the council members to address the mayor's use of me and their description that they displayed at today's meeting and the last council meeting on May 11th, 2021. Other council members, residents, members of other government agencies identify their preferred pronouns after their name in Zoom meetings, such as he, him, she, her, and they, them. It is important to use pronouns properly because it makes people feel respected no matter if they're cisgender, transgender, or non-binary. Using me as a pronoun or to make a statement about pronouns can make people feel unsafe and not supported because it comes across as mocking them and their pronouns.
My name is Taylor Kalababa. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a junior and I'm with the GHS Safe Club. The main reason I joined the Safe Club was because 2020 was the worst year on record for murders of transgender people. The mayor participates in other Clackamas County agency Zoom meetings outside of Gladstone. We would like to know if they use me as a screen name identifier during those meetings as well. If so, we ask that Gladstone not be represented in that way. If they do not use that identifier in other meetings, we wonder why is it necessary here. The use of me serves no purpose other than to make the people in the LGBTQ+ community feel like they are not accepted. Using the correct pronouns for teenagers has direct and profound effect on their mental health. This is a learning opportunity for everyone in the community. Pronouns need to be respected by all, especially because society is constantly progressing in a more inclusive direction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Final is Ben Hildner.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you for recognizing me. Mayor, first I wanted to say out of respect for our youth, you can change your pronoun and Zoom name right now. There's no need to wait. I also wanted to clarify that the purpose of this letter, Ann Jenkins Ferloni began, I am going to finish, is condemning the actions of Bill Osborne. We are not talking about the investigation. It is the actions that we are criticizing. I'm going to pick up where Ms. Jenkins Ferloni left off. Again, my name is Ben Hildner. I use he, his pronouns. Mr. Osborne's actions show a complete disregard for the rules, laws, and ethics that govern the city of Gladstone. If his motives were legitimate concerns about what he read in the confidential materials, then there were many other legal and appropriate ways to handle the situation, like consulting Ms. Betts, Mr. Tracy, writing the council, emailing the city attorney, etc. His choice to knowingly and continuously distribute confidential personnel and attorney-client privilege documents is evidence that Mr. Osborne is not fit to remain in his current city position. He has shown that he cannot be trusted to follow appropriate remedies when serious matters arise. We believe allowing Mr. Osborne to continue in his current role on the Traffic and Safety Committee is a liability to the city of Gladstone. We, the undersigned, are asking that City Council of Gladstone to use its authority under GMC 2.10.040 to immediately remove Bill Osborne, and that he be prohibited from serving on any board, committee, or commission for a minimum of 2 years. We will continue to collect signatures from the Gladstone community until Mr. Osborne is removed. This letter has already been signed and committed to by 55 residents of Gladstone.
Thank you. So next is business from the council, and I'm gonna, well, I'd like to mix it up. So Councillor Todd.
I just wanted to thank our students that came tonight to speak. I know that it can be very, scary to talk and do these types of meetings. Just very impressed by the way that they speak and their confidence when they speak. It sort of got me chills with that. And I didn't know about this club, so I learned a lot tonight. I've also learned a lot about pronouns. I don't generally use mine, and I'm going to make that change. And I felt like I learned a lot from them on that. But that's all I have right now. Besides that, I'm exhausted. So thank you.
Councillor Garlington.
Oh, hi. Okay. I would like to thank the young people for coming forward to speak. Your words and your actions speak volumes. I think it's awesome that you are coming forward and engaging. And I love to see young people do that kind of, that kind of interaction. I think it's awesome. Congratulations to the police department for the accreditation. I'd like to invite everyone up to the nature park for the story walk, Senorita Mariposa. It's a great story. It's a fun walk, and everybody should take their kids up there to do it. Or you can just go by yourself and pretend that you're strolling along and reading it anyway. Marna, I'd love to get that Washington pass. I'm going to look that up online. It looks like a really good idea. Anessa, I want to thank you for seeing something that you believed in, putting it down on paper and making it happen. I like that. I appreciate that. It's what I've always said, come to us with an issue, bring the answer, and you did that. And I just, my hat's off to you. The tourism thing was so awesome. I'm going to go off on a high note on that. And I'm sure there's things I'm forgetting, so I will be done. But thank you everyone for a good evening.
All right, Councillor Tracy.
I want to thank the younger folks who joined us tonight and who came up and spoke. I know it's daunting. There's a joke with folks in generationally about weeping for the future. And a lot of times it's focusing on the upcoming generations. What was presented tonight makes me think just the opposite. Frankly, as young folks, you're basically schooling these adults on this council on how to be adults. And I'm going to apologize to our community because we really haven't done a very good job of that. Some of us on the council more than others, not doing a good job of it. But I really appreciate the fact that these younger folks came and we're really talking about folks that they're involved with. So their friends, most likely, and their family, and the caring and concern that they bring forward in their messaging to us about getting our stuff together and behaving, and the concerns they have for these young trans youth and trans folks who are younger, and the environments that they have to try to survive in. I think that's amazingly commendable to these young women who came up and presented tonight. So I don't weep for our future. I actually think that hopefully our future generations will come in behind us and correct these mistakes that we can't seem to be able to correct ourselves. So I thank them very much for their presentation.
Thank you. Councillor Ripley.
I think the only thing I really want to talk about today is a little bit of COVID stuff. And I haven't thought this through in my head yet. I was going to tell a little story, but I'll give a background to the story first. So all last year, people didn't go to the doctor because they're afraid of catching COVID. People let their personal health drop down, and there's a lot of issues. Well, now things have gotten better. Now everybody's going to the hospital. Emergency rooms are overrun with people. The floors are short-staffed. They're overrun with people. So the point of all this is I took my mom to the emergency room the other day, and I'll leave the hospital out of this right now. Well, I was leave that name out of it. But we actually, once they checked her in, they abandoned her in the emergency room for 5 hours. I had to go back to her house and get her some pain meds, come back and give them to her in the emergency room. And once they finally came and checked her in, I said, we're 5 minutes from leaving, because we said at 5 o'clock, we're out of here. And the nurse looked at me and said, it's only been 4 hours. Oh, that's okay. When you go to emergency room, if you're going to wait in the emergency room, you need to start barking and make noise. You should never be sitting in an emergency room for hours on end, abandoned. Once they take your vitals, you're their patient, and they can't abandon you like that. But with that being said, if you aren't feeling good and you think you need to go to the doctor, you need to go to the doctor and make sure you don't have COVID. Make sure you don't have something else going on. Because if everybody waits to the last minute to go in, then you overwhelm all the emergency rooms, and that's going to affect everybody else. Their busyness is not your problem, but they turn it into your problem by abandoning you in the emergency room. So with that being said, COVID, I hope it goes away, because it's caused a mess in a lot of people's lives, and people put stuff on hold. They put their personal health on hold because of that, and haven't seen the regular doctors for the stuff they should be seeing. And we might see a little backlash to that in the community if we have older people that went a year without the proper medical care. That's going to come back and bite everybody. So as we see our friends and our family, if they're not feeling good or something's not right, they can't fear COVID if they need to go to the hospital. They need to go in and get themselves taken care of. And remember, the most important thing is your friends and family. It's not the city council. It's not the city of Gladstone. It's not your cars. We have to take care of our friends and family and the health of people. And so we just need to encourage people to make the best decisions they can. That's all I got.
Great, thank you. Is your mom okay? Yes?
Yes, she's doing very much better. She had a couple bulge discs.
Oh.
That she sat there in a hard plastic wheelchair for 5 hours in.
Oh, man, not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
But she's doing much better.
Okay, good. Councillor Hartman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take a moment to get a little personal, with you guys. I've really been reflecting on the last 6 months and how far I personally have come. I have had the opportunity to get to know some of you and some of our staff. And for those that have given me that opportunity, they might know that I have been incredibly struggling with truly getting comfortable in this space and trying to find my place and my voice. I have had to break down years of cultural upbringing and am constantly battling to remind myself that I belong here just as much as you belong here. And over the past 6 months, I have not slept well. I have really been struggling with understanding the roles of each of you and the history of this city. I'm trying to understand why there is so much negativity in this space when you can tell we all love this city. You can tell. I just don't understand why, we don't have to agree. That's fine. We don't even have to get along outside of this, but we do have to respect each other, and we don't need to be attacking people both on screen and off screen. And trying to find my place as a young person of color in this council has been no easy feat whatsoever. And I work on it every single day. Throughout the campaign, as you all can imagine, and over these past 6 months, I have countered countless interactions of hateful words and unoriginal slurs spewed at me because, I'm Native, and for other reasons I'll never understand. And so much so that, just a few weeks ago, I was on a run in the MMIW shirt, which stands for Murdered, Missing, and Indigenous Women. And a man took it upon himself down by the river to tell me that they weren't stolen, they were conquered. Okay. And honestly, the sad thing is that's an opinion Natives hear all the time. And so I brush it off. But the comments like these and worse are made all the time, not just to me, but to the residents that have felt comfortable coming to me over these past 6 months. And, I tell you all of this, because we're at this marker of a half of a year, and I want you all to understand that my experience through this has been incredibly challenging. And I want the community to know that as well, because I do not wish this upon anyone who decides to run for office, a board, or chooses to use their voice in a meeting like this. I don't want anyone to be afraid to come and speak to us. And I'm so honored that these young women decided to grace us with their presence and their knowledge. And I want you to know that I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be a 5-year resident and have been elected. And I can truly see that you all love this city. And I think we all can agree that we have a big job. And personally, I don't believe that it stops at the borders of Gladstone. Our people are paying attention now. We are hearing from our youth. We are hearing from residents of Gladstone that none of you know who they are. And new people, new voices. And I pride myself in really trying to encourage community involvement and help break those barriers down and make local government accessible. But over the last 3 months or so, I have spoken to countless amounts of people that I don't know, both 10-year residents and new residents, of their hesitation of simply using their voice in the fear of retaliation. And this is the temperature of our community right now. And they don't trust us, and that's painful for me. We are constantly reminded of the hate in this country, the hate that can present itself here in Gladstone. And as a newly elected official and now public figure, I feel immense responsibility to make sure our community knows that we are doing everything we can to protect them and support them. We had more suicides and attempts than I would like to admit last month. We have real mental issues, health issues. We have houseless and drug addiction problems within our community, within our 4 square miles. Those are the things that I want to talk about, and those are the things that I'm willing to lose sleep over. Not these personal attacks or whatever, excuse my language, pissing contest you all are in. And we don't want to hear it anymore. Like, we have real issues in our community that need our attention and our focus. We have a wonderful police department that I want to support in figuring out ways of how we can get our residents the services that they need. What can we do to advocate for our disadvantaged residents? Because it's here, the problems are here, and we as leaders of this city need to acknowledge that, and my heart breaks for those families that have lost their loved ones. So as we continue these next 6 months, I hope that you all can understand, like I'm trying to understand, that each of our lived experiences in this community, whether it's 6 months to 55 years, are not the same as everyone else's, and we have to change the way we view that. And as we continue to welcome new residents into our city, I really want them to see a city that is welcoming and inclusive, of all its residents, and it is simply not that case right now. And we have a lot of work to do to gain the trust of our residents. And I personally am dedicated to doing that. And I know that some of you are. And I'm so honored to still be here. I want everyone to know that. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to get to know some of you over these past 6 months. And thank you to our community for their involvement and their patience as we work through these issues. And I hope that we can get to a place where we all can trust each other and our community can trust us, because I think that's what we all want. And so thank you for letting me get a little personal with you. And I look forward to the next 6 months.
All right, thank you. Councilor Alexander.
Well, I'd like to say first, to start off, that saddens me. I'm sorry about that you feel that way, because that's unacceptable for anybody to treat anybody that way in this community. And it always has since I've been here. And well, you know, you've met people I know, and it's unacceptable. And we can't have it. And I'm so against that. And so I'm sorry that happened to you. And then also about I sort of was on board with you on the Indigenous signs, because there's a place called Check Foundation, and my mom was part of it, and her friend ran it. And we went and talked to the Grand Ronde tribes and already asked them if they'd like to put signage down along the rivers. And they said, yeah. So I'll find that paperwork and we'll try to figure out if we can get them back into the conversation. And then next, I'd also like to just 100% congratulations to Chief Schmerber, who just does an outstanding job. Everybody I hear from loves him. They love what he's doing. They love our community. They feel safer because he's there. I talked to Chief Huffman today. They're still they're recruiting for the paid on-call position. They're working with the AMR lifeguards now that, you know, High Rocks and summer's coming, and they're getting ready for the wildfires. And then I'd like to thank Councilor Ripley for paying attention to that last meeting that we did have, and even thank you to Ann and Ben for reading Linda Niece's letter. But what happened in that letter was I was called out for something that, you know, I had nothing to do about. The issue, it made a mistake. I was called upon by our city attorney even to reach out to Citizen Osborne to tell him, please, Bill, stop. And I did. And I reached out to him twice. I texted him and called him and said, you can't put that stuff out there. This is causing problems. So I have no control over anybody, but I did vote for the investigation. So, you know, and for the respect of our city administrator, and to make an insinuation that I supported this is 100% false in that statement they read. So I just want to say that also. And that's probably, I like to add too, I guess that's where a lot of our divisions and arguments and attacks come from, is people not having all the information, the correct information. Because once you have all the correct information, you can make an educated guess. When you don't, you assume, and it just doesn't work. And you insinuate, and you're usually wrong most of the time when you don't have the facts. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you. Good night.
All right, I'm last, and as always, I've got quite a few things, so please bear with me. First, the food pantry is still open on Mondays to the walk-up shopping model. Because of the summer and the decrease in COVID numbers, we're not packing bags for the GCCF families or the COVID quarantine families. We're always in need of volunteers. It takes a lot of people to make this program work. So please reach out to our coordinator, 503-200-8321. Maddie would love to sign you up. Parks and Rec Board meeting is next week, so I don't have anything for that. I attended the GEMS meeting last month, and I would encourage everyone to please get involved. We talked about wildfire planning citywide and doing it sooner rather than later. CERT is going to devote their July meeting to wildfires. The city first responders are talking about a centralized resource center for citizens if an event occurs, and the city will keep us updated on that one. We also talked about neighborhood resiliency and maybe creating maps of individual neighborhoods and identifying people within those neighborhoods that can be leaders, team leaders. The city website will have more information hopefully soon on how everybody can get involved with CERT. West meeting, Water and Environmental Services meeting, was primarily on a budget. So if you think our budget is bad, think about talking about sewer budget for 2 hours. There's a 1.1% increase in resources and requirements, and they're only having a real minimal inflationary increase that'll be across all services, so it shouldn't be a big hit at all. They need to put a new outfall pipe over the Willamette River. I-205 is an option, but the transportation project construction drawings are already at 90%. So Wes is trying to scramble to get those updated and engineered to allow the pipe, which is going to save us about $10 million. Some of us attended the land use training offered by John Morgan. I had a family emergency, can only attend halfway. It's a huge topic, and it can be really dry, but he actually made it fun. So thank you, John, for putting that on for us. The Clackamas County Coordinating Committee went over the 2024-2027 STIP funding, which is the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program. The next cycle is the 24-27. The last cycle, we had $2.4 billion to spend, and this time we're only going to have $2.1 billion. Some of the categories are changing around, and there's a big push on pedestrian and bicycling. So that's a separate fund, and they're going to be opening it up for input soon. There's a couple of House bills to watch, and one that impacts us probably most directly is they're adding a layer of flexibility to House Bill 2017, which is the House bill that pushed the I-205 and I-5 tolling. So in the original House bill, diversion impacts, which are the impacts to our streets when people redirect not to pay the toll, would not be part of a feasibility or funding program. But this new House bill allows those diversion impacts to be funded as part of the project. So that's happy. I mean, everybody's really thrilled about that. Whether it passes or not, we don't know. Our federal coalition is asking for $250 million in federal funds for the I-205 project. This is significant because it may change the tolling dynamics where we were going to have to start tolling earlier to pay for capital improvements or the first capital projects. This may delay that, so we won't have to have all that money up front. Not that we like tolling, but at least this would put it off a little bit. We're planning our annual retreat, which it's not a retreat, it's a very long Zoom meeting over 2 days. And the focus this year is going to be transportation, looking at the transit gaps in our county and disaster preparedness. Clackamas County is still in a high-risk COVID level. We have to keep getting vaccinated. We have to do our due diligence in order to get that moved down to low. Gladstone, as of June 2nd, is now at 533 confirmed cases, up 46 from last month, and just an 18 from just last week. The vaccine availability is better, but please get vaccinated if you can, because that's going to help us open up our businesses. I'm hoping that this is exciting to you as it is for me. Meldrum Bar is quite the topic these days. So being part of the Historical Society, I reached out to our historical guru, Kim Huey, and asked her the history of Meldrum Bar. And it's pretty interesting because we're hearing all kinds of stories about gifting it and blah, blah. Well, it's short. In 1845, John and Susanna Meldrum arrived in Oregon City as members of the Hackelman Buck wagon train, the same immigrant train that brought Jacob and Peter Renierson. Depending on which history one consults, the Meldrums arrived with either 2, 4, or 5 of their 10 children. First settling in Lynn City, then Molalla, and then Pacific City, Washington, the Meldrums finally put down roots in Oregon City. John worked at various occupations, including farmer, California gold miner, surveyor, and finally judge. How it ended up getting to a judge, I don't know. The occupation of surveyor seems to have run in the Meldrum family, as a number of Meldrum relations, as well as John's 2 sons, all took up the profession. In 1871, John W. legally bought the northern half of the Peter Renierson donation land claim and laid out the town site of Meldrum, where he lived and farmed 50 acres. He was known for his wonderful orchard. However, it was his appointment as a Clackamas County judge and chairman of the Clackamas County Commissioners for which he is best remembered. Along with his friends and peer, Judge Harvey Cross, John W. Meldrum brought to realization improved roads in Clackamas County. Meldrum town site, which never developed into a successful town like Gladstone, became both a ferry landing and a trolley stop between Portland and Oregon City. In 1909, discussions were begun to annex the Meldrum town site, AKA Meldrum Bar and Meldrum Station, into the developing town of Gladstone. So that's how it became Meldrum Bar Park, and that's how we ended up with it. I thought that was really interesting. Last, to close, this has been brought up. I want to remind everyone to please stay connected with those people in your life that have been deeply impacted by the isolation and depression COVID introduced to all of us. Almost every day someone reaches out to me or I hear a horrible story, and I know we all need to step up and do a little bit more. We may be coming out the other side, but there's so much damage already done and we need to help as much as we can. I'm going to be taking a step back a little bit from some of my regional meetings so that I can take care of my father. COVID isolation has destroyed him. We're struggling with that. So I know firsthand those effects. So please take care of each other. And I'd also like to thank AMR and their summer lifeguard program. They're a great bunch of people and they put a lot of time and money towards this project. So will someone please make a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Would someone like to second that? Who's seconded? I didn't know who that was. Everybody's like moving fuzzy. Motion was made by Councillor Garlington and seconded by Councillor Hartman. Is that correct? And Councillor Alexander and Councillor Todd all at the same time. All right, do we have any further discussion? Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Councillor Ripley,
Yes.
Councillor Alexander,
Yes.
Councillor Tracy,
Aye.
Councillor Hartman,
Aye.
Councillor Todd,
Yes.
Councillor Garlington,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, a meeting adjourned at 9:10 p.m.